My name is Matthew Vole, and I'll be walking you through the Personal Finance Practice development process. The Personal Finance Tracker was developed with a very key user base in mind, not professional financiers or industry itself, but rather individuals who are looking to have a better understanding of their own financial situation and work towards goals, whether that be tightening budgets or working towards a certain saving. So, how did we come across our design? Well, we began with two low-fidelity prototypes. Prototype A was a 3-tab navigation system. It had a budget, transaction, and savings tab, and it landed on the transaction tab, with the two most common tasks, checking your transactions and adding a new transaction, were very clearly front and center. Next was a widget-based one. It showed a lot more information at a glance. However, this came with some bloat. This bloat resulted in more clicks required for certain tasks, and a bit more cluttered and harder to understand submenus to reach. However, this did have a strong strength, which was once again this add transaction button at the top left, allowing for the most common tasks to be done quickly. So we ended up going with prototype A, but we implemented one improvement, and that was actually separating the budget tab. The budget tab was very split between a bunch of things. One was your budget, the other was regularly scheduled transactions that you could quickly log in the transaction category, and the final was keeping it subscriptions. So, how did we make the decision? Well, we mostly did it through cognitive walkthroughs. These were applied to both fidelity prototypes, and they involved 7 different user scenarios, which we walked through on each different prototype. For example, if I was looking to start a savings goal, in the 3-tab structure, I would click on the Savings tab, and then I would go down, and I would find Add New Goal. I would click on it, it would open a dialog, and I would fill in the details. If I wanted to do that in the widget-based approach, I would click on the widget showing my current savings goal. I would click on it, I would then get to a Savings tab. Then I would click Add a New Savings Goal, and I would put in the widget information I need. From there, I could then set that widget to now show the new savings goal rather than the previous one. After doing this to each low fidelity prototype, we developed a stub prototype, and we did heuristic evaluation of it. Heuristic evaluation, we followed the 9 heuristics of Nielsen and Moloch set up in 1990, and we evaluated each heuristic from a severity of 0 to 4 from problems found of those heuristics. More information for this evaluation will be later in the presentation. So how do we implement this stub prototype? Well, we use Java as a base language, and on top of it, we made use of Java FX to develop windows, tables, dialogues, and the canvases. Really, the entire UI makes use of Java FX for both consistency and general. Then Maven was used to simplify compilation, so that it can be ran on more systems for a better evaluation process for all parties involved. Here's some screenshots of this stub prototype. We begin with the transaction tab. Here we have add transaction and manage categories, and then the table itself has a large quantity of space to fill all of these recent transactions with the date and the amount. Next, we have the budget manager. There's a nice bar chart showing the history of your budget, and you can set a limit, which will be this right behind here. And then all of these map directly to the categories in Category Manager. So any spending marked food will automatically go towards the monthly spending of the food category. Next, we have the recurring tab. This has each next due date and the frequency of each recurring thing, and then you can press log transaction to log a transaction. Finally, we have saving goals. The saving goals themselves, you can see that we can create goals, edit goals, and delete goals, and then they have a progress bar after they're complete, and a nice contribution table at the bottom, which shows the history and allows the addition of contributions. Okay, moving on to the design rationale. Some strengths were the navigation bar. The navigation bar made it really easy for new users to fully understand the system. Navigation bars are incredibly intuitive and regularly used. Next will be consistent dialogues. All of the dialogues have the same layout for errors, cancellation, and confirmations, and if they're all in the same place, it means once they've used a few dialogues in the system, they know how all of them work. And finally, data startup. We needed to populate the tables with some data at the startup so the user isn't confused by what everything does and they can see visually what it should look like, even if the data is afterwards by the user. Okay, here's our heuristic evaluation and some key findings we found. First and most importantly was that contributions could not be edited or removed in the savings tab. This is a major misstep and needed to be addressed immediately. Next will be that the reoccurring tab has competing purposes. The first purpose is monthly subscriptions, where you see every month and it tells you when it's next due. And the second is logging a regular purchase. However, certain regular purchases don't have this regular cadence to them. Let's say a regular gambler is buying scratch tickets every few days. That would want to be in the log transaction tab so that they can log them faster, but it would not work with the current reoccurring structure very well. Next, delete simply has no confirmation or relevant recovery systems. Then, some other issues with the date field having no structure or validation, keyboard shortcuts not existing, and some inconsistencies in currency formatting. To resolve these, most important would be adding to the contribution table an action category with the edit and delete buttons seen in the other tables. Next would be committing to one clear purpose on the submenu of reoccurring. I would personally recommend removing the next due and frequency columns and focusing entirely on making it logging transactions for expert users. Next would be adding confirmation dialogues to all deletes and potentially adding a reoccurring submenu that can be reached by expert users that know where it is. We should replace the date picker or date field with a date picker just to prevent its issues. And then finally, we should standardize currency. I'll now be moving into a live demonstration. Thank you very much. Welcome to the live demo. I'm going to run the personal finance tracker now, and we're going to be doing some tasks from the user story of that guy who's trying to get some scratch tickets and log. So let's begin by removing some defaults because we don't need all of these right now. Most of them are just here to show a better idea of what the system looks like. So we'll leave the savings goal. We'll keep recurring bank and we'll do transactions. Here's the budget manager right now. Since we removed some things, these will be at 0 with their history being hard-coded. And let's go to transactions and let's create a new category for gambling. Now let's say our scratch ticket enjoyer decides that he wants to go out and he goes to the casino and he spends 60 bucks. And we'll categorize this as gambling and we'll save this transaction. It's added and now there's a gambling. It doesn't have a limit, but we can set a limit. Say he wants to spend only 75. So we will see that he's at 60 of 75. Okay. But now let's create a recurring entry of scratch ticket. These are the ones he gets on his way home. He's trying to spend less. That's why he got the app in the first place. So he's trying to track and see how much he actually spends every month on these tickets. So we'll set it to intermittent and gambling, and next due will leave. So we can clearly see the issue mentioned with the frequency and next due not working as well for this being a shortcut system. We chose this intentionally because this is different than a monthly subscription. So these categories should probably be removed, to be entirely honest, and they should focus entirely on things. But let's log it. Well, let's say over the week we get 5 scratch tickets. You'll see they all got added. They all had the autofill date of today. And we'll move to budget manager, where we now see gambling is a bit over. Now we went a bit over a month. So let's say we had a savings goal we wanted. Maybe we're working on this rainy day fund, but let's say we wanted to add a goal. Let's say we're trying to buy a puppy, and we want like 5,000. So we go to our budget, we checked, we went $4 over, but let's say we still managed to save, I don't know, 125, but we went $5 over, so we're going to put in 120. So we've begun our contribution, and we're not very far to the puppy. So our man can take his thing, and he'll be like, okay, I went a bit over. Maybe I want to reduce this limit on a later month. and maybe I want to try and control myself a bit more. Maybe he goes a little bit crazier and he sees a more obvious overrun, and he will be able to work towards this puppy. He'll be able to manage his gambling and keep good track of it. And here I'm just going to show editing a transaction. It comes pre-populated with the previous date, previous name, previous value. So let's say I want to capitalize this one. It's just been bothering me when I open the thing. Or let's say I entered it with secretly 97, right? We can save it. We could even categorize it into a different category. And then that's about it. This is most of the system. Thank you for going through the walkthrough with me, and have a good one.